Hi, my name is Mark Burnett, and in this video, I want to talk about Russia's plan for the long game and how it relates to my experiences in Europe. I'm living in Eastern Europe now, and I may be back. I may not be back soon, but I've had some unusual experiences which has led me to believe that there are a lot of long-term preparations for Russia, for Europe, going on. And this is my claim. Russia is playing the long game and going to try to influence geopolitically Europe and weaken it. I think that's a pretty backable claim based on what we see with Hungary, and then it turned Slovakia towards Russia. And I would like to reinforce that with some experiences I've had. Now, I'd first like to say something about the Russian ability to counterfeit, clone, and replicate documents and things. When I was living in St. Augustine, which I still do, I'd often take my kids to the playground, and I would be chatting with these Russian guys from Palm Coast. And they were trying to convince me, they have a lawyer, Russian lawyer in Miami, and they were trying to convince me to utilize that Russian lawyer's services. That lady in Miami can hook me up and get all kind of benefits from the U.S. government. And I said, is it legal? They said, she's a lawyer. But what they were really implying, I believe, is they had a back system hack to the U.S. government system in which they could extort benefits for themselves and their family. Of course, I wanted nothing to do with it. And perhaps I should have turned them in or could have turned them in, but I didn't have enough information. So, and I like to fly beneath the radar a little bit. So that if they can go into the U.S. government, at least on a low level, and these were federal benefits they were collecting, I think they have pretty good IT skills. Going a few more years back, when I lived in Boston, and I would take yoga and do yoga in Porter Square, there was a guy I knew, Dimitri. He worked with me, and he would be going to yoga, and going back from yoga class, he would tell me that basically you can get any document, any software. If you want to even get diamonds, clone diamonds, nobody would be able to tell the difference based on Russian counterfeiters. He said the Chinese do a kind of amateurish level job, but the Russians do it at a high level. So what does this have to do with my experiences in Eastern Europe? As I'm living here and getting established again, I'm setting up a business. And I'm talking to a lot of people in banks and government offices, and they say that there has been a large influx of Russian people. Now, obviously, it's mostly Ukrainians coming here, and you can tell the Ukrainians, they're usually hardworking, good people, living a very humble, non-ostentatious life. Ostentatious is the signature of Russia. Humble, it seems to be a signature of Ukrainians. They're working in like Biedronka, which means like Biedronka means like a little beetle. It's a Portuguese grocery store. Or IKEA. And they're mostly women and children. But then I see these Russians, and they're driving these big cars. They speak Russian. I can tell that they're Russian and not Ukrainian, and not Ukrainians that speak Russian, even though they have a UA on their license plate, because it's a totally different style. They're up to totally different ideas and totally different attitudes. So back to the government offices and the banks, they say that a lot of them are just coming over here. And I say, how can they do that? And they say they have papers and documents and things of that nature. If the U.S. government has holes in it, in the system, I guarantee the EU does. There's 1.4 million Russians living in the EU legally, and an estimated 700,000 living illegally, and maybe more. Again, the most common way people come here illegally is, let's say some Russian student wants to be a hostess in Amsterdam, and then she just overstays her visa. They fly in legally and they overstay some student visa or something. But it goes beyond that. I believe from what I've been communicating with people in, compliance and other things in Eastern Europe, they all have documents. And it's very hard to smoke these documents out if they're in the system legally. But I suspect, based on circumstantial evidence, that these documents may have been forged. They put sleeper cells in Europe, scatter them throughout Poland, throughout Europe, tried to, and I don't know what they're here for, maybe trying to persuade the political agenda, such as in Slovakia. I know one lady personally who claims to be a Polish American, but I actually smoked her out. She has a Russian ties and Russian last name, and she deals with crypto. She was trying to stir things up here in Poland with peace rallies connected to giving concessions to Russia. So it's a very not black or white situation when it comes to people living in Europe and what the status is in terms of are they legal or not. And if they're illegal, okay, some of them are here as refugees and seeking economic benefit. And I'm for that because, to an extent, let's say, as long as it's legal, I believe ultimately to make the world a better place, we want free movement of labor and capital. But this is only playable if you have peaceful democracies. And we do want to make the world a better place. But Russia right now is a despotism. If you've got Russians in here, let's say there's over 2 million Russians living in Europe based on the legal and illegal estimates, I bet a small percentage are sleepers, and we don't know what they're really up to. So all I can say is there is no way that Russia is playing a short-term game and it's just a local conflict of geopolitical in Ukraine. This is about Europe. This is about dominance of Europe. Remember, after the fall of Napoleon, the Russians were dominating all the way to France. I believe Russia even wants to go further. They don't need to have men on the front lines. They can do it through the back door. So Europe, just be alert. I'm not saying anything's going to happen or anything like that. I'm just saying they use political influence, psychological influence, and subconscious influence. They put money in banks here, move money, use cryptocurrency, and they're doing things that we quite don't understand right now. However, somewhere in Moscow, there's probably a master plan for this all, and it's not just Ukraine. So that's my video today. It's about the third backdoor, how I believe my claim is Russia is penetrating Europe in a very subtle way through the movement of unsuspicious, non-suspecting people into the land. But for me, as an Eastern European, they stick out like a sore thumb. Again, not all of them. Most of them are probably peaceful people. But I can almost guarantee you that some of them are here sent with a different mission to go undercover in an unsuspecting way that you would never suspect. And this is based on evidence conveyed to me by people and observation. My name is Mark Baronot. Have a great day. Thank you very much.